One of the most important things to do when painting plastic components, such as an automobile or truck bumper, is making sure you have the appropriate ground between the stages of receiving the conductive coating and before it goes into its first base coat process. This is going to be a very quick time period, and the carriers will continue to move the bumper through the process while you're trying to take a measurement. You can do it with a multimeter. And we've all used multimeters before, and sometimes it can be easy to read and sometimes hard. But picture this. You're moving down the line with the carrier. You're trying to take a read on the bumper and also connect the second point to the carrier in order for you to get a read. I'm not quite sure how accurate that's going to be because you're going to be looking in several places at one time, not to mention maybe even putting a hole in the bumper or scraping the conductive coating off the surface, which will impact the paint quality. Another way of doing it is to use the Mueller electric ground analyzer. The Mueller electric ground analyzer has a blunt tip probe which will not harm the paint. You can also connect the ground wire to the base so you don't have to continually move along as the bumpers move. Let the bumpers come to you. And what you can do to take a quick measurement, and this is go, no go, establish whatever threshold you'd like to establish, and touch the bumper with the blunt nose here, 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 or here. In any case, it's a really quick process. And most times what will happen is, as you'll see, with the connection on one side, the amount of resistance will go up as you move from one side of the bumper to the next. That's what you need to know. Maybe you need to add a second grounding assembly to make sure you have a solid connection throughout the entire bumper, well below the threshold. What I'd like to do now is illustrate the use of the ground analyzer itself. To do that, we've taken a piece of TPO or thermoplastic and we'll use that to illustrate what a bumper might look like coming through the process. In this particular case, the piece of TPO is already coated with a conductive coating, so this would represent a bumper coming out of the conductive primer process before it goes into the base coat process. This would be a perfect time to go ahead and measure your grounding of your particular bumper so you can really do a quick check as to whether or not you have a great grounded bumper and potentially a great paint job. So what you want to do is turn on your ground analyzer. It pops into action really quick. In this particular case, it comes up with a 1 meg threshold. However, thresholds can be set at 300 ohms or 3 meg, depending on what your preference is. In fact, there's also one in there for a user setting if none of those settings work. To take your measurement, just take the blunt probe and touch the piece of plastic. As you can see right now on the far right, close to the grounding assembly, we have a green light which would indicate a go. As we move from right to left across the piece of plastic, you can see now we're starting to see a fluctuation of the red and the green light, which means we're starting to approach 1 meg or the threshold that was set. In the center of the piece of plastic, we're right at 1 meg. As we continue to move to the left, we see the amount of ohms starting to increase, and in this particular case, you're now seeing a red light, which means the left side of the bumper may not be grounded properly. Continuing all the way to the far left, we can see our highest reading, and we continue to see a red light. And this is where you might want to consider adding a grounding assembly to the left side of a particular piece of plastic, or potentially a bumper. So we will go ahead and do that. We've added a grounding assembly to the process. We now have a grounding assembly on the right and the left side of the piece of plastic, which is what you would do in a paint line to your bumper. Let's take readings again. We go ahead and check the far right. We have green and a very low reading. We continue to move from right to left. Reading goes up a little bit, but we're still well below the threshold and a green light occurs. In the center of the piece of plastic, we're doing a very good reading, and we still have green light. Moving farther left, we still have a very good reading and a green light. As we go all the way to the left, we have a great reading and a green light. So now you would know by seeing green all the way across your bumper that you're well grounded. So you're going to have a very safe process in through the paint line on this particular bumper. And the fact that this is well grounded, you'll also increase your transfer efficiency. So that would certainly improve your paint job all the way around. So you're good to go on all aspects, whether or not you want to make sure you're grounded or you're going to have a great paint job. you're all good to go.